Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hey, it's AZ. Welcome to episode 178. Big apologies. I have been sick and I didn't want to cancel this recording because Raquel had already recorded once and we had audio problems, and so I didn't want to make her reschedule again. So apologies for any grumbling and being sick sounds during the recording. Today I spoke with Raquel Lorenzen. That name may sound familiar to you if you listened to previous episode with Justin Lorenzen. They are in fact married. They've been married for over 20 years. And Raquel talked a lot about her journey as a fire wife and the early years of their marriage and how lack of communication made things difficult, and then how she warmed up to the fire service, and then now how she really plays a part in not only the lives of the families directly at the station, but the lives of the families in the Oklahoma City Fire Department through the Spousal Support Network. So give it a listen, give us a rating, give us a review, and as always, have a great week. Listeners, it's AZ. I'm back with the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast, and I'm here with Raquel Lorenzen. Raquel, say hello.
Hello.
Guys, this woman is the most patient, sweetest saint in the world. We met 6 weeks ago, maybe, at a coffee shop. We had a conversation. She agreed to be on the podcast. We scheduled it. We recorded it. Jeremiah started editing it, and he's like, AZ, I can't hear you. And so she is so sweet to meet me again today. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I want to, first of all, introduce you to the listeners by being a super lazy host and letting you introduce yourself. I'll ask you this question. Who is Raquel Lorenzen?
Oh, boy. So I guess if you wanted to sum me up, it would be faith, family, fire, and passion is helping others. I'm married to J-Lo, Justin Lorenzen. He's from Oklahoma City Fire. And we've been married this year will be 20 years. We are high school sweethearts, and we have been part of the fire service the same amount of time we've been married.
And we'll get into it later, but I seem to remember you telling me you started dating in high school, you got engaged, the first time you guys were out on your own was when you got married.
We are high school sweethearts. We lived at home. We went straight from home, started college, decided to get engaged, got married at 21. He started at Noble Fire. The same month we got married. Funny story. He applied for Noble Fire and he was like, oh, thank you so much for the job. I'm getting married this month too, so can we prolong my start date to whatever said date it was? So they graciously let us go on our honeymoon, and then he was at Noble for a little while, and then he applied for Oklahoma City. He got on, I think it was 2008, I believe.
Okay. All right. I need to know, what sets your soul on fire? She hates this question.
What sets my soul on fire? I would say doing anything and all that I can to help fire families. Not just survive, but thrive. Yes.
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 I just did my cheer. Because I think I told you this last time. I always say, thriving is not the same thing as surviving, and not dead is not the same thing as kicking ass.
Yes, absolutely.
And we want to kick ass.
Yes.
Okay. I interrupted you. What else sets your soul on fire? Or was that the punctuation?
That is the punctuation. Family is foremost. My family, your family, fire family, anybody that I can help, that's what I want to do. That's what sets my soul on fire. So early on in our fire career, our marriage, we were just surviving. We weren't thriving. Mm-hmm. Almost to the point that I hated the fire service. I did not like it. It took my new husband I got to see all the time away from me half of our time together.
So rude.
I know. And then he wants to spend more time with them. What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
So we really had to dive into how to change things, how to make it work. I mean, he started Oklahoma City Fire 2008. We were pregnant at the same time. I got accepted into ultrasound school the same week we found out I was pregnant. And now he's starting the Recruit Academy. Well, I mean, I don't know if you know Oklahoma City Recruit Academy, but it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, no joke. No joke.
Yes. And it is a family experience, to say the least. So, yeah, that was the beginning of chaos.
That was the beginning of chaos. Well, you know what? I'm gonna skip the last get to know you question, because we're gonna find out how you're changing the world through our conversation.
Okay.
But I guess I want to break this down into those early years. You said kind of you hated the fire service. It's almost like another spouse.
It is.
Or another girlfriend or something like that. But dive into, I guess, maybe your expectations of what it was going to be like, and then what it was really like.
Okay. So starting in the fire service, he was at Noble. It's a small town south of Norman. It's a lot different than a big, large department. So at Noble, he was close. I could go see him at the station anytime I wanted. It wasn't as consuming. They trained only, at the station. It just wasn't as stressful. They would sleep at night most nights. All of the things that a larger department brings to the table for your firefighter and your marriage, your life, your schedule, wasn't there at first. And so I was like, okay, great, Oklahoma City. That's what he wanted, from after he started Noble, looking into other departments, because he started craving, he wanted more, right? And so I was like, okay, this is going to be so great.
Yay.
And then it wasn't for a little while. After I finished ultrasound school, I started at the VA. So now I'm a mom, a fire wife, a full-time sonographer at the VA who now has to take 24-hour shifts for coverage call.
Oh my gosh.
So what do I do when Justin's at the station and I'm on call and I have two little ones at home? Thankfully, we have his mother-in-law, or my mother-in-law, his mom was gracious enough to watch them when we needed, but that was a struggle because Justin, they have the Kelly schedule for Oklahoma City. So it's 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 4 days off.
Which is, by the way, the worst schedule for sleep.
And that's all we've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
Noble was like that as well. So I would work Monday through Thursday, 10-hour shifts. Come home when he's not home, get the babies, do the schedule, get up in the morning, have to be at work at 6 a.m., and then he comes home from the station and whatnot and say he's had a rough night. He's going to come home and sleep till I get home, and then I'm still doing all of the things. So we weren't communicating at all. We were just getting stuff done that needed to be done. Yeah, that's what I say. We were just surviving. We weren't thriving. We weren't spending time with each other, because by the time I had an open weekend and he had an open weekend on his 4-day, that was few and far between.
What is that? Like maybe every 6 weeks?
Maybe, but I was on call every other week.
Oh,
so
man.
If it didn't hit just right, then it was almost 12 weeks before we had a full weekend together.
Say that again. Almost 12 weeks?
For a full weekend together. Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you were in a distance relationship.
I mean, sometimes it felt that way. And then you have your family that aren't fire family, and they don't understand. They don't. And that's taxing. That puts a lot of stress on on the relationship itself, not just between you and your spouse, but with your family too. So that's why I started like hating the fire department, because they were consuming all of his time. It was even on his days off.
And on his days off, I want to come back to that because let's go back in time. I'm writing down days off because I'm old and I'll forget. Let's go back in time to when he actually started the fire academy for OKC.
Okay.
I can't remember, not when he was teaching there, when he was a rookie. Mm-hmm. I know I asked him this and I don't remember the answer. Did he go through the full academy or did he go through a portion of it because he already had his credentials?
He did have his paramedic, but he went through the full, I think it's 16-week academy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about, was there any preparation for you as the spouse or the family or anything like, here's what's going to be happening the next 16 weeks? Talk to me about that and then like what actually happened.
Okay, so no.
No.
We didn't get anything. We just said, we were just told, okay, he's going to be in this academy for 16 weeks, and then he's going to go out to the stations. Okay, well, what does that mean for me? I didn't realize I needed to know the things that I needed to know.
Ooh, like what? Tell me more.
Okay, so the academy, or the recruit academy, it's very mentally and physically taxing on these recruits if they are not physically prepared. I mean, they go through all kinds of things. They're taking tests weekly, they're taking physical tests weekly, they're being challenged all of the time, and they are expected to be there early, they're expected to stay late. And then they come home and they have to be in the books because they have to pass their test. If they don't pass their test on the second try, there's things that happen. But for 16 weeks, they're not home. Not really. So it begins really, but it's every day.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known a little bit ahead of time so I could have prepared on the family side, because the recruit doesn't know either what's about to happen, and if they are told somewhat, that's not being relayed home because they don't want to stress us, but they don't realize if they would have told us, maybe we would have been a little bit less stressed, right?
Yeah, it's nice to know.
Exactly.
But to your point that you already made, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And so it's not like J-Lo was clocking in at 8 o'clock in the morning. He gets done at 4 and comes home and starts up the grill and makes dinner for the family.
Right.
He's leaving early in the morning, stressed to the max during this academy, coming home late, and then has to stick his nose back in the books in order to pass.
Right.
How did that feel being the spouse?
In the moment, I was like, what did we get into? Like, can we go back to a small town? Like, what is this going to look like in the future? I was mad a lot of the time because a lot of stuff fell on me. And so, but now I say all that because on this side of things, looking back, I'm glad they were hard on them. I'm glad it was physically taxing because the job is physically taxing.
Yes. Keep going.
They needed those stressors. They need to wean out the people that thought they were ready to be firefighters and are not, because I want everybody that works with my husband to be ready every single day. Right?
Bingo.
Yes. And so there was a transition point when we started to communicate where I didn't hate the fire department anymore. I understood. We had those conversations, and I started seeing that all of these things are bringing you home to me every other day or whatever it is. And so we just had to realize we just had to find the balance. We had to figure it out instead of just keeping all the stresses, like for me on my side, thinking I have to take care of everything because he's away, and then him not knowing all the things that I'm doing. And there could be things that he could help, right? But a lot of times firefighters, I mean, from what I've seen, they marry or are with very independent women.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah. So we are like, oh, we can do it, we can do it, we can do it, until we just break down and then an explosion happens, right? So
Waterworks and an explosion.
yeah. So I hate to complain about the things that were done to get where we are, but looking back, I see that all those things were so needed.
Which makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned that you sort of came around and warmed up to the fire service. Was that before or after or during his promotional process when he had his nose back in those books studying for, is it lieutenant?
Yes, driver.
Was it during that sort of transition?
It was a little bit before, but that transition kind of boosted into me being as more supportive as I possibly could. There was a time, even before we had kids, or maybe Noah was a baby, I can't remember. Justin was telling me, texting me in the morning when he was about to get off and I'm home waiting, we're waiting for Dad to get home. I'm going to go ahead and go, to the golf course with said group of guys. And I'm just super frustrated. I'm mad at him. You're with these people 24 hours a day. You had all this time to talk. Why now? You're cutting into my time. 24 hours without you. You were within 24 hours. And now you want to go do some fun stuff or whatever. And so he did go to the golf course or whatever it was. And then I want to say, I said this before, I think 6 months, maybe even a year later, Justin broke down and he was like, there's a reason why I needed to go. Said person had an awful tour. It was call after call after call. And I started noticing he was acting different. And so I think, he really needed somebody to talk to outside of the fire station just to kind of see where he was. It was then that we talked about it, and I just thought, why didn't you tell me that before? I wish if I would have known that and the reason behind it, I wouldn't have been mad for so long. So that's kind of the changing point for me, is when I saw Justin see a need in his coworker and his mental health, and he helped take that firefighter home a little bit healthier than if he didn't get help.
I have more questions because Justin recognized a need in another human being and shared that with you at a later time, which made you potentially recognize a need in other human beings, which is a pivotal point of the story. But I want to go back again because you had mentioned, and we hit on it a little bit, but I want to dig deeper. You said the fire service was taking him away from you even on his days off. So that is one example of him going golfing with his friends to support his coworker. But what are some other ways that the fire service was taking him away from you on his days off, and why?
So you kind of touched on it a little bit. It kind of goes back to when he made driver. So now he's a lieutenant, and potentially he could be in charge of 2-3 guys on a fire. And so that really hit him very hard. He takes his job very seriously. And so he wanted to know all there was to know in his position. So he started training. okay, well, I do know a little bit about the fire department, and you're supposed to exercise so many minutes a day. You're supposed to train so much a day. I mean, that's part of your daily routine. And so I'm like, well, don't you do that at work? Why are you doing it on the weekend for 8 hours and then you come home and you're exhausted? And so, again, we finally sat down and had a conversation. And he said, well, I'm responsible for these guys. And I don't want to potentially put them in a dangerous situation if it was something that I should have known. And so I was like, okay, I can understand that. And so he started going to fire conferences. We went to COBC, which was the first one, and that was in 2015, I believe, yes. And they happened to have like a little spouses track there. They had a little brunch. Yeah.
Genius.
And so that kind of segues into the next part. But he was like, let's go do that brunch. And so, because they had the couples go for a little bit, and then they branched off and did their training, and then the spouses stayed for the remainder of the brunch just to talk. And so I stayed. I didn't want to at the time. I didn't know anybody, don't leave me alone kind of deal. But I stayed, and we had great conversations, and I'm sitting back and listening, and I'm like, well, I'm not the only one that thinks this or feels this way. And so it really hit me like, okay, there's a little bit more I need to dig into as far as like being a fire spouse. So we come back home from the training, and he decides he wants to go down to training and be a training officer. So that was a little bit of an adjustment because he went from Kelly's schedule to Monday through Friday. I won't say the times because it's never correct. But I'm like, why did you do? Okay, so I went from wanting you home every night to you being home every night. And I feel like we have less time together. It's crazy how we've structured our lives to the Kelly schedule, and then now you have to mow on our time that you should have mowed when I was at work and the kids were at school.
I didn't even think of that.
All of the things. So yes.
Oh, girl.
Mm-hmm. So that was a little bit of an adjustment, but he went down to training because if you don't know what you don't know, the best way is to just dive into it and learn everything you possibly can and train. So that's why he wanted to go down to training. And then we started going to more conferences, and now I'm going to see there's some spouse tracks going on. And so I'm really sitting back and I'm like, okay, this is a thing. This is we need more of this. These spouses need to know all of these things and know that they're not alone, right?
It's so much better when you're not alone. It doesn't really help the situation, but just knowing you're not alone.
That's like the first step, I think, is knowing that you're not alone. That's kind of when I branched out a little bit more and started being a little bit more talkative, and because I'm very shy.
Well, and the thing, when you said it was his idea to go down to the brunch,
yeah,
like, neither one of you are super, super outgoing.
No.
So good on him for making you go.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but what was the track we were supposed to be headed down? I feel like there was something I wanted to say, but I didn't get to it.
Oh, taking up his days off. And so the one thing that, in addition to the fact that he was training himself on his days off to take care of himself and his crew, I want you to tell the listeners about the actual promotional process when he went for lieutenant and what that looked like. Because, it was just like read a book and 2 weeks of studying, right? Wrong.
Yeah. So yes, the promotional tests are very, very competitive for Oklahoma City Fire. It is very, very, very taxing. They have, I don't even know how many pages that they have to study, but what that means is they're studying and in the books for a good 3 to 6 months.
Unreal.
And it's not just, oh, I'm going to sit on the recliner in front of the TV and read some pages. No, they are in a dark or in a secluded room, no noise, in the books all day long, at home, at the station, nonstop, 6 months. I will say we were very blessed. When Justin was ready to promote or wanting to promote, he had an officer, and I can't remember if it was Major Pascal at the time and Chief Lax, but one of the guys that was really close to him. His leaders are amazing. We've been very blessed in that way from the get-go. They said, if you're going to test, you need to talk to your spouse. And they really told him what it means to study and what it means, what's going to happen at home. And so I'm so thankful to them, because we sat down and had a conversation, and he told me, and he was like, I said, okay, no problem, no problem. He was like, no, I cannot eat dinner at the family's house for said holiday for longer than set amount of time. I have to do, and I'm like, no. So he was like, no, this is how it's going to be. And I was like, well, if this is how it's going to be, you better pass the first time.
Good for you, girl. Give him a little threat.
But with that being said, I tried to take any type of burden that I would put on him normally off of his shoulders. Was it easy? Absolutely not. But I will say, if your firefighter, at least at Oklahoma City, is trying to promote, you're right there. You're doing the work too. You're right there with them. It is not just a single person situation. But thankfully, we got through it on the first time.
Good job.
Yes. And then, yeah, he made lieutenant. And that was hard. Let's see, 2015, Noah was born in 2009. Braxton was born in 2011. They were both in gymnastics. They had soccer. Not both of them, but, I think
combos of them, yeah.
Yeah, and football. And I'm still doing my job and being on call and all of the things. So that was that was hard.
Can you imagine, though, from both of your perspectives, had he not had that conversation, you're going to be 24/7 irritated. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to do as well on the test because you're not going to be stepping up and pulling more of the weight so that he can study without feeling guilty. Like, right. That conversation was magic.
Yeah. Oh, hands down. That's why I stress so much the importance of communication, and how I wish we would have had a lot of conversations a lot earlier. Like, that was the first conversation that was proactive instead of reactive. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so where we are now, 20 years in, we are actively trying to be proactive in our conversations, but it's really hard to do. It's easier said than done, honestly. But to go back to the training side, when I said Justin said he felt some responsibility on his role and keeping his guys safe and letting them go home safe, that's the pivotal moment for me.
That was the moment.
That was because at that point I said in my mind, well, you better go train because I want you to come home. And so that was the moment where I was like, okay, why did I hate the fire department? I just didn't understand.
Yes.
I just didn't understand. Now, do we need to figure out some balance? Yes. But I think that was the biggest moment for me, because he loves his guys, he loves his job, and he loves his family too. So then I really understood. Why didn't he just tell me that's why?
Maybe he couldn't verbalize it.
I think a lot of times they can't.
Yeah. Words are hard sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It came up twice already, the communication, but it is so true. And also, related thought, I used to hang out with someone who didn't respect my bedtime. And the only way that I could communicate to that person how important it was tomorrow I'm responsible for no less than 4 other lives. So that is if I go on 0 calls. Like there's no medical emergencies, there's no fires, there's no accidents. I'm responsible for 4 other lives. I can't be tired and making bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we just have to say things a different way.
Right.
So we were talking about the brunch where you met some of the other fire service wives. You started talking about going to a few other conferences, which was great. Now you're warming up to the fire service. You had mentioned in a previous conversation what a great sort of dynamic you all have at the fire station that you are at, Station 7.
Station 7 on the green. Station C, that has since changed from our last conversation.
Oh, that's right. Chief retired.
Chief Haskell retired. So Justin was the chief's driver. And so when a new chief comes along, there's some things that change, at a chief station. So he's been moved to a different station, but the family still holds strong.
Okay.
Honestly, we're already planning a reunion, and it was just literally last week that he retired. Some of those guys are still at the station, and some have moved. But looking back before the change, if you said "Welcome to the fire family," Station 7C is the epitome of what that means.
Tell me all about it.
From the office, from chief, major, firefighter, lieutenant, driver, all of them, they are so close-knit, and their families as well. All of us together. We do things outside of the fire station. We see a change in how they're acting, like spouses or at the station, and we have conversations, and we have a group chat amongst the spouses, and we just, when there's a need, you just put it on the text or have a phone call or let's go have some coffee, all of the things. And so I wish every single firefighter family had that. But going to these conferences, eye-opening. Some of them have the very opposite experience. And I'm like, I thought I had it bad. I had a support system that I didn't even know I had. And then I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to change this. Surely there's a way for you guys to have what we have. I mean, I don't know if it starts with culture change or if it's going to be slow moving, but there needs to be a change, because how do you live with your firefighter family and not have the connection and the conversations that you should outside? Because you should have that bond with, you're working right next to them, and you are supposed to be there to make sure that they're safe. If you don't have a connection, that's scary to me.
I mean, we thrive on human connection, so
right,
we need it.
But not only that, if I have a connection to you, you are basically an accountability partner. I need to do my best for you, and vice versa. But if you don't have a connection, where's the drive?
It isn't there.
Right.
So you had sort of this magical fire family at the station, and you sort of identified a need that other people need this too. Mm-hmm. And so have you been able to sort of do anything about that?
I hope so. I hope that that's what I'm doing. I'll try to kind of summarize it a little bit, but going back to when Justin wanted to do training and all of the things, and our boys started getting a little bit older, and he introduced me to what this Fools group. He was ready to do this Fools group because he's really big into training. We are a lot alike in many ways. We want to do as much as we can for those that can't do for themselves. So like if their stations can't fund training, let's go get it out there for free so they have this training. So, and that's kind of what the Fools are really. And so I was like, well, what does that mean for me? What kind of time consumption is going to happen here? So he told me they meet once a month and then they put these trainings on sporadically. And I was like, okay, I think we can do that. And he said, you can come to the meetings. There's other spouses that come to the meetings. I was like, oh, okay. And dinner? So we just...
Are you buying me something to eat?
So we kind of made it like a little date night. So it was kind of like, you know, a little balance there. I mean, it's mostly fire talk or whatever, but we still get to sit next to each other. We get to have laughs together, and then I can talk to the spouses if they're there. But we started doing that. And early on, there was 2 other ladies that I really started talking to, and it was Amanda Moore and Sabrina Yaw, and they happened to go to some of the same conferences, COBC and some other ones in Florida, and we're just sitting there looking at each other like, what? We can do this. We can do it like they do in Florida. Let's bring it to Oklahoma. So we sat down and we created an LLC, and it's called Fire Life Together. The one in Florida is Fire Life Wife, and those are a bunch of really great women. They bring a lot to the table, and I'm so excited that they're spreading all that good news in that part of the United States, but we wanted to bring it here. So Fire Life Together, we're going to put on a conference for some spouses. So who's going to talk? Well, we are, I guess. So that's what we did, and it went great. Sabrina and Amanda are great speakers. Me, not so much, but it was still a great conference. We had lots of ideas and we had a lot of feedback. It was really positive. And so we were like, well, we are really like concentrating on Fire Life Together because that's what we want. We don't want something just for the spouses. We want something to help the family. So let's do it together. So we had a spouses retreat or a couples retreat. And that went really great too. But just with the time constraints, you know, now we all have full-time jobs. I have little kids. They have all of their things. And so it kind of slowed down a little bit for us because when do you have the time, right?
Right.
So our couples retreat was Fire Life Together, Preventing a Flashover. I had that written down for a long time, the title of that class, because that's what we want to do. We want to prevent that explosion. We want to be proactive in our relationships. And so that's what we did. And then going to more fire conferences, more training, because all of our guys were big into the training thing. So they had some doors open for them with Fire Life Wife to start speaking. So that's kind of what they did. I stayed on the home front. I'm way too busy, and plus I'm not a great public speaker.
I think you sell yourself short.
Well, you know, it's just me and you talking here, so.
That's true.
I tend to go blank when I have 100 eyes on me, but they do really well in that aspect. But moving forward, having more conversations, I'm not sure how Sabrina got connected with this woman on the family peer support team for the Oklahoma City Police Department. And they had a conversation and what the family peer support team looked like and what they did. And so Sabrina has all this information. She comes back to me and Amanda, and she's like, you know, vomiting all this information. And we're like, yes, yeah. And she's like, we need this for the fire department. I'm like, yes, we do.
Yesterday.
Yeah. And so she really spearheaded the whole thing, trying to implement it. So she kind of mimicked the police side on SOPs and just kind of the documentation and what the training would look like. And she presented it to the fire chief. And there was several meetings, and I love the people of Oklahoma City Fire because they honestly they are very progressive, not only for their citizens, but for their firefighters. I feel like they just go above and beyond. That's just my opinion, but I really believe that. And so the fire chief, he was like, okay, we can do this. And so we created a family peer support team. It's all volunteer. It's me. There's several ladies on it now. And I feel like that is actually what fuels me at this point in time, because I feel like I have an avenue to like project all of this information that I want, reach these people, reach these families, whether new or coming in from smaller departments, and just giving them all this information from the get-go, not later on or mid to the end of I don't want them to be like how I was and said, oh, I wish I would have known that earlier, right? And so, like you said in the very beginning, did you know what all of this entailed? No. But now, we, the family peer support team, have our own family academy when these recruits are in academy. And so that's kind of where we are now. We're restructuring things and we're getting better and better and better. But yeah, that's what's.
So, and Sarah Parks is involved with that, right? With the Recruit Academy?
Yes.
Okay.
So she's a licensed therapist who the department brought on, which is amazing also. Like I said,
she's so cool.
Yes, she is very cool.
I love Sparks. So you have, it's periodically during their 16 weeks, you have meetings?
Mm-hmm. So in the past, we've done like one meeting per month, and we really tried to figure out what would we have wanted to know. So we brought different things to the table, like two of the ladies would talk about what life looked like for them with the littles, running around. One's a stay-at-home mom, one's a nurse, and we'd just have a conversation about that. Chris Walker, she would talk about getting your people together. Like, you need to network, you need to get out, and you need to know the other spouses at that station. And so it's really important. Sarah talks on PTSD. I know there was a financial thing at one point. We're trying to change things up. So there's a lot of changes coming. We're really excited. So yeah, that's kind of where we are right now.
And so in addition to that, if my spouse has something go on at work, is that a resource where, I could reach out to you and say, something bad happened and I feel like I need some support? Is that how that works? Or how does that, I guess, give me the breakdown there?
So we are fairly new as a family peer team. Not a lot of the firefighters kind of know what it looks like to reach out to us or use us. But in theory, what would happen is if there was a call that the peer team needed to come and talk to a station or a group of stations that went on a call or whatever, they would be asked, hey, can our family peer support team be reached out to? And if they said yes, all we would do is call and say, hey, your spouse had a rough tour. They're being helped by the peer support team, but we just wanted to let you know we're here for you. If you're seeing any said changes and you need some resources, I can connect you with those resources. So basically, we just facilitate resources to these spouses because a lot of them, going back, they don't even know. I didn't even know what an EAP was until 15 years in. Okay. What is an EAP? I didn't even know it was for me or it was for Justin, your children. That is a service that Oklahoma City provides through the city or whatever. I wish I would have known that. And there's some other things just within that we can help them with, just the ins and outs and getting the numbers and the appointments and all the things. Or And it doesn't even have to be a call that their spouse made. We want them to know, we want the spouses to know that they can reach out to us if there's a need, or they just want to just ask if anybody else has a similar situation. What did you do? What did you do? You know, some kind of resource to help them, build them up. So that's kind of what we are. Hopefully we can get a little bit more traction as moving forward. But I think right now our focus is really getting all the information out to these newbies. And what better way than in the academy, because that's where they're beginning. And so we're really putting out there, what is this academy going to look like? What is it going to look like the first year? What is it going to look like during promotional times? And then even hopefully retirement. We're working towards that too. And after retirement. So.
And I think that as with a lot of things, when something is new, it tends to be easier to start it in the academy. Mm-hmm. It's a big lift to start with the incumbents, but if we can start in the academy, create some buzz, and get those people coming out on the street with the information they need, whether it's physical fitness or mental health or whatever, mm-hmm. I think that works. It's brilliant. It's brilliant mm-hmm. what you're doing. I love that. In addition to working with the spousal support at OKC, you're also doing a little bit of, I know you don't love it, a little bit of speaking this year, right? Tell me about that.
I guess a little bit. Let's see, Carolina Days is a conference, and they reached out to, Justin has done some classes for that group, and they reached out to him and I if we would do a roundtable discussion. So Justin said that we can do it, so we're going to do it.
But did he ask you first?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I'm going to say no, but if you know me and Justin, we push each other. I'm usually on the other end pushing him. I don't like to be pushed now. I see that. But I am excited because I feel like that's an important topic to me. And if I can be a part of it, then I need to be.
And we will put that in the show notes. But the other one that I believe you're not speaking, but you're there. You have a presence with your photography and so on and so forth, would be the Firemanship Conference in July.
Yes. Hands down, if I could say go to a conference, it would be the Firemanship Conference.
Okay, why? Tell me.
If you've ever been to any other conferences and you go there, there's some, I don't even know if I can put it into words. There's a presence there. Just the motivation behind everything that they do is just wholehearted. You feel seen. It's an amazing experience, to be honest. They meet all the needs, and in my experience, that encompasses the fire service. They have everything for the firefighters, right? They have the hands-on, they have the mental health, they have the motivation, strategies and tactics, all of the things. The hot classes are awesome because I did one of the hot tracks for the spouses. So not only did I get to do a little bit of it, but you get to see what your spouse is out there doing and training. And it's amazing. Firemanship. Yes.
Okay. Tell me about what you got to do in the hot class.
Let's see. We've done forcing doors, probably my favorite thing to do.
Mine too. I
told Justin that if at all possible, maybe we win the lottery, whatever, I want one at home.
A forcible entry prop? That's
I'll
amazing.
Tell you, that relieves so much stress. And you know how satisfying it is to get through that door?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So good.
I think in another life, I probably should have been a firefighter. But
I think so too.
Maybe. I don't know. Doing spraying water, but we've all done that, right? I've done a lot of the things because when Justin was at training, I would take pictures and then do all whatever he was training. But let's see, forcing doors.
Any high heat stuff?
Not at the spouses tracks that I've been to so far, but there was one that it was fun. It wasn't as fun as forcing a door, but I feel like that was the most influential one. We got all the gear on. We got packs on, and they put a mask, and they covered the mask. So there was zero visibility. And we get down, and we're doing this like maze thing. So we can't see, you know. It really, looking back, it put me like in my mind, I was like, let me picture me doing this or Justin doing this. And I was able to just kind of, I mean, I know I'm not going to know the experience and what it really feels like, but I was able to kind of put myself in that kind of situation where I could relate just a little bit, or maybe understand a little bit more of how he's feeling when he tells me the stories that he tells me.
And do you think it's important for other spouses to understand that too?
Yes.
I do too.
I think it's very important. It's quickly becoming it's always on the forefront of my mind. I want to start providing that for all the fire families locally. It hit so hard, and it opened up doors of communication, because when we came back from doing all of the things that we did in the hot, Spouse is Hot, and we come back and we have lunch and we're having these conversations, I just heard all these wives say, oh, I didn't realize this, or that was crazy and hot, and I don't like this. And it was just, I think it's so important for these spouses to feel and touch and breathe air and know the sounds, and you can kind of put yourself in the atmosphere that they're working. I know it sounds silly, but on the spouse's perspective, it's just like, it's very hard to explain. But I think I said this before when we talked. On a side note, just watching and knowing a lot of firefighters, when their spouse shows a spark of interest in what they do, they are on fire for their spouses. They take so much pride in who they are, what they do, that's who they are. And when their spouse shows a little bit of interest, they don't have to do all the conferences. They don't have to be so involved. They don't have to be all that. Just showing a little bit of interest, huge for your relationship. They are on fire for you when you are interested in fire.
Drop the mic. That's so good. It doesn't sound silly at all. And there's this thing when another first responder is in a relationship, when first responders are in relationships, it can be bad. I think there can be bad things with that. But there is that thing where they understand it to a level, and you are making the effort to understand it to a level to appreciate that.
Yes.
Genius. Mm-hmm. All right. I am like 2 minutes from having the worst coughing fit in my life. And so I want to make sure, A, we wrap it up and I'm respectful of your time, and B, the listeners don't have to listen to me cough. Is there anything that we should have talked about that we didn't bring up?
Great question.
Great question. And I think what you said there was so genius, though. If you show a spark of interest, it just starts the fire.
Right.
I love the fire analogies. I
do use them a lot myself.
I mean, you're kind of like a fire buff now. It's amazing.
You know, I try.
You try. Well, you do it. You pull it off great. Wow, this is terrible.
It's okay.
Do you think we should drop the mic?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm putting in the show notes where you can catch Raquel speaking. I'm going to put her email in the show notes because she's really gracious and super helpful. And I think we can drop the mic.
Yep.
Girl, thank you for your time. You're the best.
Thank you.
All right. This is AZ and Rocky, and we're out.